this Nolan Wells case is just getting crazy and crazier by the day. So now you have doctors psychoanalyzing the boys that Brandon Tatum was interviewing. They're watching the movements, they're listening to their words, their expressions, and they're giving they're analyzing these boys, and they're telling you what they think based off the way that they're responding to this trauma.
Ex-Officer Tatum has once again returned to Mississippi to interview the young men that were with Nolan Wells on the day he went missing and then ultimately was found deceased. There's a lot in this interview that I want to get into and break down, so let's get into it.
What is your thoughts on that phone call to Cito? Some people have gone out and done enhancements to the audio, and in doing that, created a transcript manually. It doesn't appear that the transcript was derived from an automated system or have any, in my opinion, real integrity with it. So what do you guys think about that audio?
From this very first question, I start wondering, is ex-Officer Tatum being paid by the attorneys that represent these young men or the young men's families themselves? Because that is a question that is very loaded, and it's leading towards innocence. It lets the interviewees know that the interviewer has a bias, and thus it's more about getting out a narrative than of finding the truth.
Again, he's asking them the most softball questions that you could possibly ask, right? I'm talking about easy layup questions. He's not cornering them in the corner to see how they would respond. He's not saying, well, you know what, I'm gonna be neutral, and today when I do this interview, I'm gonna drop the hammer on them a little bit just to see how they would respond. No, that's why they keep choosing him, because he's making them, he's humanizing them to make them look in a real innocent, positive light, where he don't know whether they're innocent or guilty. He don't know, right? But his job is to come in there and run affairs. So this this brother right here is breaking this stuff down, and you know, he's psychoanalyzing the whole situation. And he's analyzed Brandon Tatum. Now he's analyzing these boys, and he's breaking down the questions that Brandon Tatum is asking him. Now, this is the thing. Brandon Tatum is grifting this too, because he's making a lot of money off this stuff, man. A lot of money off these boys. And he's choosing the side, and he's saying, well, I can get back in the good graces of my followers that I started to lose when I was embracing that other stuff, right?
Now, I want to be clear. I do not know what these boys did or did not do, but when you release videos like this, you open yourselves up to a certain level of scrutiny that was not there before. And that question doesn't sound like you are interested in an unbiased answer. You ask the question in a biased way that makes the interviewees feel more comfortable.
Well, I can go ahead and say that as you posted that clip of all of us on the boat, you know, as it's rolling, not rolling, but right there sitting in the water, Wyatt's on the phone with Cito in that clip. I mean, he's on the phone. Wouldn't you think that you would have seen Nolan on the bottom of on the floor or something, or scrambling around, or everybody in a pot, like in a small space on the boat looking at him or something? I mean, it's just so crazy to think that, why would we call Cito if we have a dead body on the boat?
To be very clear, when you are professing your innocence and you are passionately talking about your alibis and talking about how you would never do this and strongly advocating for you did not do this, that is not in and of itself proof of innocence. We can think about many, many cases where people have advocated and said like they did not do anything. I think about Rafael Palmeiro, who was testifying in front of Congress during the steroid trials for baseball, holding up his finger and saying, I have never used steroids. Then it turns out he did test positive and negatively ruined his legacy. Also, Lance Armstrong, maybe the most passionate defender of his own truth, of his own innocence. Turns out he was actually cheating and lying the whole time.
And see, the state of Mississippi, man, it's messed up. And even the federal probe, there's a woman who lost her son. These boys are doing interviews, and they're coming after the mother. And people are sitting back watching this happen. They're allowed to come after the mother. This is a grieving family who does not have any information, right? Or anything that's being disclosed, right? These boys are still doing interviews. The police ain't said anything. Why is there not maybe a gag order or something? Brandon Tatum's going down there. He's milking this till the well runs dry. And they're just talking away. They raised all this money, hired these attorneys, right? No, they need somebody, a crisis person, or somebody to speak on their behalf, because they really shouldn't be talking at all. They're not, man, this whole thing is crazy.
In the internet, in the bowels of the internet. But when they were asked in the interview to give specifics, and we're going to play it for you in a minute, specific examples of what had actually happened to them in public, the examples got a little fuzzy. Now, look, I don't know who's advising them. As I said yesterday, in my opinion and my experience doing this, they're not getting good advice. Now, if they look, hey guys, it's easy. You know, you can get to me. It's easy. I have my information is out there. You need a good crisis PR person. I can give you a handful, if not 10, of a good crisis PR person who will either tell you what to say and not to say, or just advise you most of the time to STFU. Because as many people as there are in the world, that's how many opinions there are. And you're going to hear all of them on the internet.
So Don Lemon, in this sense, is correct, right? But again, when you're privileged people and you come from privileged families and you're used to getting away with things and doing things the way you want to do it, there's not going to be any type of form of remorse of what you guys think it should be. I'm W and I say so, right? We got money. We go get Donald Trump's lawyer. We got power. We're used to things going in our favor, things going in our way. That's why you don't see them crying. Or that's why you can see them have the mitigated goal to see that, well, Nolan Wells is our friend. And they're not saying, man, I know things are not going, I know things are not putting us in a positive light, but I just want to tell Nolan Wells' mother that I'm sorry. We are innocent. I'm so sorry. And I wish that we can come and sit and talk to you. No, you don't see none of that. Remember, somebody's dead. You guys are suspects because he was the last people, you guys were the last people he was seen with. They don't have that kind of remorse. It doesn't matter what people are saying about them in the media. If Nolan Wells was your best friend and your best friend didn't come back, let's just, even if you didn't do it, if y'all left him there, he didn't come back, man, you would see the emotion. You would see the emotion.
So these boys saying, like, don't you think that if we had done something, we wouldn't have done this? It just reeks of, like, not understanding that just because you are passionately trying to convince me of something does not mean that it's not true. And it's there's a lot more here we're going to get into, but I just want to make sure that you highlight, like, the investigation needs to pull out real evidence of what happened or what didn't happen. And someone saying they didn't do it is not evidence of innocence.
I mean, why would we call the Coast Guard? You know, why would we do the things we did if we know we killed somebody?
I think people, regardless of who it is going to believe what they want to hear. If they want to believe that my friends and I had something to do with Nolan dying, then they're going to believe that regardless of what you put out. But you put out, Brandon, that a clip of the boat when Wyatt was on the phone with Cito, and it is boldly clear that Nolan was not on the boat with us. You can literally almost see down to the deck. And as you can see in that picture, everybody is completely casual while Wyatt's on the phone with Cito. Yeah, we were scrambling around trying to get the boat fixed, but the guys were, you know, in the video, you can see me, I'm sitting on the bow. If there was someone dying on the boat, why would everybody just be sitting there waiting to either get towed in or, in the first place, like Jack said, why would Wyatt call Cito? It's crazy. The reason we turned down Coast Guard is, why would we call Coast Guard if Cito could pull us in? But we fixed the boat and we ran into Fort Bayou, and that's it. The Cito call was completely enhanced, and these people just want to believe what they want to hear. And that's exactly what they're doing. So
If I were doing this interview, here's a question I would ask. Who was recording your boat? Why were they recording your boat at that exact moment? Because it could be a suspicious activity, like you guys are trying to establish an alibi. And lastly, couldn't Nolan have been on that boat? That question was not asked, so we do not know what these young men, how they would have explained that away.
Now again, they could have went to News Nation, they could have went to CNN, they could have went to MSNBC, they could have went to man, it's some big YouTubers. There's a lot of people they could have went that would have been able to ask them tougher questions than what Brandon Tatum is asking. Because this black guy, this brother here, he's breaking down and dissecting some of the things that they're saying right off rip, right away. It's being exposed. So it's not hard, but they're being advised to go there probably by their legal team, because right now they're getting destroyed in the public perception. So they need the public, they need to get the public back on their side. So go somewhere where somebody's going to give them some softball questions, allow them to talk and express things from their perspective and point of view, and don't ask them nothing tough where they may stutter or have to defend themselves. When they talking about the boat, you couldn't see the bottom of that boat. We don't know everything. We don't know if they made it. We don't know if he fell overboard. We don't know because nothing has been said. Everything is now being said from their perspective, right? And they're not being questioned, right? Remember, we know that they was out eating, right, at the time when he was like, this whole thing is a mess.
It's just crazy to me that people have tried to twist this and twist the audio. When we came out with the first interview, it debunked half these lies, and now you don't hear about any of it. You don't hear about the pool party because it was on June 27th. You don't hear about anything else that was mentioned. Thousands of lies. And now, the audio comes back, and all of a sudden we can hear Nolan yelling in the background, screaming, we're screaming about how he's dead. That's just a complete lie. And it's another lie to push this narrative that people don't want to turn down. It's insane to me.
What's interesting to me here is that they're turning this case into a defamation case about the public having their own theories, hypotheses, and ideas about what might have happened on that day to Nolan Wells. And they're turning it to that and away from the actual investigation of what might have happened to their friend and brother, as they refer to him. And that seems very odd to me. If you really cared about him, you really loved him, you really considered him like a brother, you'd be far more interested in the truth than caring so much about what the public thinks about what you may or may not have done. But that clearly isn't the case here. Like, they are very interested on what the public thinks of what they did or didn't do. And so much so that they're turning this into a case about their own perceptions and how people are perceiving them, and away from the actual investigation to what may have happened to Nolan Wells on that day.
First of all, with respect to Warren, if you just murdered your best friend on an island, the dumbest thing you could do would be to call the Coast Guard, to call a federal law enforcement agency and tell them, hey, can you guys go out and check out this island and look for Nolan Wells? Well, that's exactly what Warren did. Warren called the Coast Guard. And that is one of many very compelling facts. He got back and he called the Coast Guard. Does that sound like a guilty man to you?
That's more what I was talking about before. Simply saying, if I were guilty, would I have done this? Is not in and of itself proof of innocence. As Lance Armstrong also said, like he said many, many times. If I were guilty, would I have allowed myself to have been tested this many times? Would I be the single most tested athlete on the planet? If I were actually guilty of anything, would I have done this?
And this is why they don't need to be talking, right? The police need to be talking. Because they said that, well, if we were guilty, why would we call the Coast Guard? Well, some would say, well, maybe you call the Coast Guard as a diversion. Because you had already did whatever you did, or whatever happened to him. This is all alleged because we don't know, right? And you call it as a diversion because you said that the sink was shipping at a certain time, right? Where that can give you maybe some cover. But then when they asked, well, do you want us to send the Coast Guard out? You said no. You declined the Coast Guard help when you said that you was the boat was sinking. Right, you can hear people in the background. You can hear all kinds of stuff going on in the background. So we don't know if that was a call for cover, where maybe one of the guys, y'all might have been thinking, and one of the guys might have said, "Hey, well, do this." right? Where we can cover our behind. We don't know. It's all speculation because you guys are doing interviews when you shouldn't be doing it with Brandon Tatum, who's pocketing the money, and the police ain't saying nothing. So we know that there's a definitely active investigation because if they didn't have anything, they would have been came out and said something, right? That's a fact. But, I mean, this whole thing is just crazy.
And then also describing being recognized in public and people asking you about something you said or did or appeared in is not harassment. That's called the First Amendment. That people are able to say, hey, aren't you the guy on the thing? And didn't you say this? You have every right to walk away and say, I'm not, thank you, nice to meet you, I'm not interested in that, and keep going. Now, if they get in your face and start pushing the phone and the camera in your face and all that, that's a whole different thing. Invading your personal space, that's a whole different thing. But someone saying, hey, young man, aren't you the guy that, why would you say something like that? You don't have to participate in that. You can just say, I'm not interested. Or you don't have to say anything, you just walk away. One of them described a woman recognizing him in a restaurant and showing him the earlier interview on her phone, one of his earlier interviews. They left. And then according to them, some friends who stayed behind were allegedly threatened. Okay? Some friends who stayed behind were allegedly threatened. So, but we were specifically asking about the people in the interview who said that they had been harassed. Another example involved a friend named Trayston, supposedly being denied a Gatorade and a Red Bull at a store. Now, Trayston is one of their African-American friends. And they're describing his experience with allegedly being harassed or whatever the interaction was. That may be harassment of their friends. It may be ugly behavior, but it is not the same thing as the three men sitting there describing repeated direct attacks against themselves. And when the interviewer kept asking for concrete examples, I kept waiting for one involving them directly. Now, that does not mean that threats have not happened, but they're in an interview and they're answering questions. They also said that they have received death threats online. Awful. And I don't doubt that they have. I don't know. It means that when they were asked for specific in-person examples involving themselves, much of what they described involved other people around them. That distinction really matters, especially because they have hired a defamation lawyer.
Again, I'm not saying that these young men did anything. What I am saying is simply stating you didn't do it and saying it would have been really stupid of me to do ... if I had done anything is not evidence of innocence. We know that criminals often do really stupid things and get caught from doing the really stupid things that they do. So this just seems odd to me.
Right, now these are all American young men, incredible young men.
Referring to them as all American young men is an interesting phrasing as he's talking about his friends and harkens back to like the perception of like we are clean cut, white, good young men who couldn't have done this. That's intentional.
And they did a lot more than just that. I won't go through all of it now, but they did a lot of heroic things after the fact, and they did the best they could. And they tried for their dear friend. All of their actions are the actions of innocent men, not guilty men. And again, they are categorically, completely, and totally innocent.
I saw another clip where one of the young men referred to Nolan's mom as Miss Wells, which, again, I find odd because you're supposed to be his like friend and brother, and you would know that she went by either Wansley as her last name or Wells Wansley. When I think back to my childhood, I can't remember a single time mispronouncing my best friend's parents' names. I mean, it's just, these are unusual things. Now, look, I don't know what these boys did or didn't do, and I don't know what they know or don't know. It could be just as likely that they saw something they're not saying that they saw. It could be like they know what happened to them, even if they didn't do it. They just saw the circumstance that led to it. Maybe they know nothing and are completely innocent. I don't know. But when you make videos like this, you increase scrutiny. You increase the scrutiny on this situation.
So by making these kind of videos, they're not helping themselves. They're actually making things worse, right? Brandon Tatum doesn't care because he's making money either way. all the way to the bank. But where there's so much speculation, they really shouldn't be talking at all. And I don't understand why the police is allowing them to talk. I mean, the family is being showed just so much disrespect, man, in regards to this case, man. And it's a shame. But you guys let me know what y'all think, man. If you made it this far in the video, hit that like button, subscribe to Street Media TV, leave your comments in the comment section. Remember, I love y'all. Till the next time. Peace.